Welcome back to News in Focus. Now, I'd mentioned before we went to the break about this report that was compiled by DNA Employer of Records. And it has South Africans coming home in large numbers, with many returning from Australia, Europe, and Canada. What we have seen is a 70% increase in South Africans actively wanting to return over the past years. It has South Africans packing up their flats, their residencies in London, Amsterdam, Toronto, and Sydney, shipping their dogs and booking one-way tickets back to South Africa. Yes, one-way tickets. They have no intention of returning back to where they were working. And joining me now to take this conversation forward, I'd like to welcome the CEO of DNA Employer of Record, Anton Van Heerden. Anton, absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for us.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. You know, Anton, I was telling you off air, it was, reading this article, seeing what the stats had brought up. It's a feel-good time, isn't it? And I just wanted to get, your take on how you were able to compile all of this over this past year.
Okay, so we obviously keep stats on our clients. We employ people for foreign businesses. And one of the sources of business would be South Africans who want to return home, but they want to continue working for their current employer in Europe, the UK, or wherever else. And the number of those people who contacted us to say, well, I'm coming back to South Africa, but I would like to continue working for my current employer overseas. Can you employ me in South Africa? Those numbers is what we reported on, and that has increased significantly over the last 6 months. So that's the good news story, and that's the source of our information.
Yeah, there's something important here within this report, Anton, in that, of course, it has the remote work aspect taken into context. Now, of course, a lot of what we saw with remote work occurred during COVID-19, and many companies have maintained that supposed way of working post the pandemic. That was a consideration, wasn't it? Because these specific companies have said, look, we are willing to allow this to happen, and it can be done within your own country.
Absolutely. So I think businesses' eyes opened with regards to remote work during the pandemic. Remote working is not a new thing. It's been around for many decades. But I think many businesses who never considered remote working as an option before COVID started doing it after COVID. So there has been a snowball effect of remote working globally because of the COVID pandemic. And luckily for South Africa, we are one of the top remote talent destinations in the world for a couple of reasons. Our neutrality time zone wise with Europe and the UK, the fact that we have a good English accent, our high level of education, the work ethic of South Africans, and then also the cost benefit. Businesses who are in Europe and the UK who employ people in South Africa can save up to 30 to 40% on labor costs. So that all played a role.
Yeah, Anton, you mentioned something quite important, the time zone alignment. Now, obviously in the work that I do in media, it's always important to try and make sure that when we secure interviews, it's done at quite a reasonable time zone. And I guess within this report that has been compiled here, South African workers are well suited, especially when it comes to these developed economies, whether it's the United Kingdom, the European Union, and the Middle Eastern markets. There's also been a note of US teams also receiving great crossover hours. That's a huge advantage, isn't it? Especially when we look at the South African workforce and the dedication that many of our workforce has within this country.
Absolutely. South Africans have a reputation for their diligence, their hard work, So absolutely, we are very popular when it comes to that. Yes, we employ people on behalf of businesses in the US, more on the East Coast, and they would typically work shifts to coincide with the US business hours. Typically work from 1 p.m. To, let's say, 10 p.m. in South Africa, which is still fine. You know, for somebody who's unemployed and who can now suddenly work for a US-based business, even if it means working a bit after hours, you know, that's a good story.
Anton, business process outsourcing, to many it may just seem to be a terminology within the economic sphere of the globe, but South Africa really boasts quite a large business process outsourcing. It's got a strong heritage in that regards. How important is that, especially within the customer experience outsourcing side of things?
It's massively important. So, as you rightly said, South Africa has become very popular in the business process outsourcing industry. So, that's just a fancy word for call centers, really, business process outsourcing. And what we find also that businesses who have historically outsourced their call centers to places like India and the Philippines are now wanting or looking at relocating those call centers to South Africa, once again, because of the reasons I just mentioned, English, the time zones, etc. So business process outsourcing is a massive industry. It will continue to grow. There are many businesses worldwide who need call centers. And once again, the labor cost saving that these Northern Hemisphere businesses can achieve by employing South Africans is significant.
Yeah, one final question before we go to the break, Anton. I think us as a country, we sort of underestimate what we have in this country in terms of different spheres of society, especially within the economic side of things. And that is something that the developed economies of the world really look at. This country and the sort of labor force that we have. And that's something to be proud of, isn't it? That South Africa boasts such an enormous amount of talent that can help contribute, not just within our country, but also from a global economic perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, we have so many skilled people who have tertiary degrees who are unemployed. So we have a huge supply of skilled people. And in terms of the diversity of the workforce, as you rightly pointed out, we have, you know, people who are able to work in call centers, to professionals, whether that be engineers, accountants, people in the healthcare sector. So we really cover all the bases from professionals to, you know, to call center workers and everything in between.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Anton Van Heerden on this return of South Africans, 70%. That's a large number, and it's good because it really has the sense of patriotism, which our country really needs right now. I beg your pardon. Do stay tuned. News in Focus wraps up after this break. Welcome back to News in Focus. I'm still in conversation with the DNA Employer of Record CEO, Anton Van Heerden. Anton, if there's one thing that South Africa has, it's a unique lifestyle. You know, we're in December right now, and South Africans just love this month because it's a wind down month, but it's a month that really brings South Africans to a sense of wanting to enjoy the moment. And what has been noted in this report is that the lifestyle no longer feels attractive as it once was. And I'd mentioned before, you know, the interview we started, the grass is not always greener on the other side. There is something about South Africa's lifestyle that's unique, isn't it? And when you leave home, it's very difficult to establish that very same lifestyle outside of your own home.
So, you know, we are so spoiled in South Africa for a variety of reasons. The weather, our diversity, and not only in terms of people, but everything, even food. We're very spoiled in that regard. And the cost of living in South Africa is still much lower than in Europe, the UK, US, and elsewhere. So we have a lot to be grateful for. The weather plays a big part. So we ask people, returning to South Africa, why are they coming back? And apart from the obvious reasons, family and friends, all these factors, our diverse society and just the vibe in this country is phenomenal. And that also, that's why also in the workplace, some of the people we've asked say that they want to be surrounded by like-minded individuals in the workplace as well. They're also, people who want to get things done. And that's the kind of, work ethic we have in this country. So absolutely a great place to live.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree with you there, Anton. Anton, there's something else that was, mentioned in this report. South Africa's economy, there seems to be a vote of confidence for this government of national unity. And I guess as South Africans, we don't live in a silo. What happens from an economic perspective has an impact on us as the citizen on the ground. What gets decided within the government of national unity from a legislative perspective has an impact on the ground. And what I'm reading from this is that the citizens of our country wanting to return home have confidence within this aspect of it. How important is that, especially now when we look at the politics of our country? Huge question marks there, but just by this over here, you kind of have this feel-good factor of how things are occurring within us.
Absolutely. I think there has been a turn in sentiment. There are many factors that count in our favor and that signals, recovery, if I can call it that. So whether it's the rand that's stronger than it's been in a long time, our inflation rate that's under control, Eskom posted the first profits in a very long time. We haven't had load shedding, for more than 18 months. So, I think all these factors contribute to people's confidence in South Africa. Yes, there's a lot of work to be done, and it's probably only the beginning, but it's definitely a change in direction. And I think that motivates people and gets them excited about what the future holds for South Africa.
Anton, you mentioned, the report also mentioned the success of the Springboks. And I must say, sport within our country is really on the high right now. The Proteas have just defeated India in the Test series. We haven't done that in 25 years. Hansie Cronje, the late Hansie Cronje was still our captain. Bafana going to the World Cup. Our athletics seems to be good. The Springboks, we're world champions. We're rugby championship holders at this moment. And this part over here is really important because it highlights leadership, skill, belief, and discipline. And all four of these aspects are within the Springbok team right now. That's quite a nice part of this, isn't it? Because really, when we look at sport, when we look at where we hold a certain sports team within our country, the Springboks is right up there, and that's the unifying factor within our country.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Once again, I think, the last year has been phenomenal. Well, the last many
years, yeah, definitely.
Since Rassie, it's just been such a massive success story, and people feed off that, and it gives them hope, and it shows South Africans that we can be successful in other spheres of life as well, not only rugby. And I think, South Africa as a country, we probably punch way above our weight when it comes to sport, as you just mentioned, whether it's cricket or rugby or other sports. We do really well. Everyone's excited about Bafana next year in the US with the Soccer World Cup. So once again, all part of the kind of the good news story, and that things are changing for the better.
Anton, just two questions we need to get through. The report that does get compiled, for the viewer out there, of course, it's the first time that they have seen this report, and I must confess it's the first time that I've come across a report like this. What is the supposed time frame of different reports that will be compiled with this? So, either we're going to have it being more than 70% or even less than 70% should another report be compiled. So talk to us about that in terms of the time frame of reports similar to this that are conducted by DNA Employer of Record.
Okay, so the report that we compiled was based on our own data. So these are clients of ours, people coming back. We also have clients who just want to employ South Africans, so not necessarily people coming back to the country, but foreign businesses wanting to appoint remote talent in South Africa. So we are happy to do this on a 6 monthly basis and disclose the numbers that we have. I believe that the numbers that we have are representative because we are one of the big players in the industry in terms of employer of record in South Africa. So I have no doubt that it is that our competitors would find the same trends. And I'd be happy to do this on a 6 monthly basis. I think it will reinforce and confirm everything that we're saying, and I think it's important to do that.
Anton, and with that, the sense of patriotism that we have within us as South Africans, we've gone through, very difficult moments within our country. But when you read a report like this, when you see what's happening within the country, I guess it's important to have something good like this. We covered in so much of negativity, so much of pessimism, but it's good to see that there are 70% of our compatriots, our fellow citizens that are saying, we want to come back, we want to be in South Africa, we want to make this a better country, and we want to help build the economy, because that's ultimately what it is, building a strong economy so that everyone within our country can help contribute to it.
Yes, definitely. There are so many positives with regards to people returning. It grows our tax base, but skills are coming back into the country, it's all positive. And I honestly hope that this is a long-term trend. I believe it will be. People, 10 years ago, people were almost forced to, if they wanted to work for a foreign business, they were forced to immigrate. Now they don't have to. They can enjoy the bushveld and the braai and still work for someone in New York. So why not stay in South Africa? So I honestly think this is a long-term trend. It's a growing industry, the employer of record industry in our country. And I'm sure that the numbers that we will publish going forward will just reinforce this trend and this good news story.
Anton Van Heerden, absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for us. Nice having you.
No, absolute pleasure. Anton Van Heerden, CEO of DNA Employer of Record. I'll add the bush, the braai, the beautiful oceans, the beautiful mountains, the people of South Africa. We've got good people in this country that want to make this country work. And I truly believe a report like this can really help emphasize that South Africa is a beautiful place. We've got our issues, we've got our challenges. Let's not take that away. But this is a country worth staying for, worth fighting for, and worth helping build for. And this is what we need to instill as South Africans. We have a beautiful country, beautiful constitution. So much is working for us. We just need to go ahead and play our part in making South Africa a better place for everyone. That's all we have for you here on News in Focus from myself, Faraz Patel, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg. If you've missed today's episode, you'll be able to find it on our YouTube channel. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.